Do you ever get frustrated by how drab charts and presentations look, and maybe you're even really good at making them stand out, but it just takes too long? You need a quick and easy way to go from something like this to something like this. Hi, and welcome back to SigmaGen Solutions. Today, we'll explore how to use AI retexturing to add some uniqueness and character to your charts. And I haven't seen anyone do this yet, and I'm really excited to share what I believe is one of those skills or intersection of skills that's in the early days with AI. And while this approach is not perfect yet, you'll have a real advantage if you get good at it now before others catch on. So this tutorial is for you if you're looking to differentiate yourself from the pack, whether that means impressing your boss or a client, or just because you, like me, enjoy being more creative with your materials. And this is easy and quick. So by the end of this tutorial, you'll know how to retexture charts like a champ. And to follow along with my workflow, you only need a couple of things. A way to make a basic chart, I'm using Excel. A subscription to Midjourney, you should be able to do this with something like Stable Diffusion as well, but the workflow would be different. And I think you could probably even do it with Style Transfer, but again, different workflow. And why do those other things when Midjourney is so easy? And of course, you'll need presentation software. I'm using PowerPoint, but you can use whatever is your preference. All right, so the first thing you're going to want to do is build your basic chart. And I'm using Excel for that. You can use, Tableau, whatever makes sense for you. And I'm just going to use generic made-up data for this example. So you don't have to copy this, but if you are copying along in Excel and you want to understand what I'm doing here, I'm just making a number and then making it smaller and smaller by applying a random number between 0 and 1 to it. So this times this, and that's just so I can get a descending bar chart. That's what I want to use for this example. You don't have to do this exactly, but this is the kind of chart that I want to demonstrate with. So I'm doing that here. Let's see. So I'm going to put in a bar chart. Okay, so some of the things I've found with retexturing these in Midjourney is that it does better if you don't have an axis. It tends to hallucinate values in the axes and other interesting numbers and things like that. So I get rid of those. I get rid of the lines. I get rid of the title. You can always add those back in when you go back to your presentation software or whatever you're putting this chart into. And then I also just like to add, or remove, I should say, some of the white space between some of these bars and make this look a little bit more, let's see here, like this. And it makes it stand out a little better when you're doing it in Midjourney. Again, I don't know in other workflows how this would affect it, but it's worth doing these things, at least in Excel. Okay, so that's pretty easy. So now you want to take this and basically turn it into an image. So the way I do that in Excel just quickly is I copy it, paste this image. Now I've got this. You can use, pretty simple like paint type program if you want to go in and just paste it in here and save it as a picture. I just do PNG. You can see I've done a couple already here, but we'll call this test chart number 3. For me, I call it raw so that I know it's the working version. Once you have that, you want to go over to Midjourney. And in Midjourney, there's a new feature called Edit. So you want to go to Edit. Then you want to edit an uploaded image. Okay, and then you're going to go to the image file that you just created. Mine's in a little bit of a different place here. Bear with me. Okay. So once you have that uploaded, there's a couple things you're going to want to notice. Let me size this so you can see it a little better. Okay. So you don't want to edit, even though the feature is called edit, you want to retexture. If you edit, you can use this little cursor to basically like a paintbrush and draw over areas that you want to change. You can do that. I've messed with that too, but what I'm looking to do is quickly retexture what the chart looks like. So I use the retexture feature. You can do all kinds of things in here. Let's just experiment with a couple things just to demonstrate what it can do. So the first thing is I'll just say, how about a bar chart? Bars made of ice, if I can spell right. Maybe do something like studio photography just to see what kinds of interesting effects we can get there. You can do a lot of stuff here. And then go over here. I would tone down all of these, the stylization, the weirdness, and the variety. If you want to mess with those after you do a couple of runs, that's usually best because then you can get a good grasp for how it's thinking of it when you submit it. And then you just submit it. Go back over here, give it a moment. I'm using, submit. I'm using turbo hours, so it goes quickly. If you don't use turbo hours, it can take a little longer, but you'll see mine pop up in less than a minute, which is pretty convenient if you're trying to do this quickly. That's really the whole point here, is to make this happen fast. So we kind of got an interesting effect. I like this ice one right here. This is pretty cool. The black background's interesting. Some of these are not as good as the others, and that's what you'll find here, but it gives you plenty of options. I think we should get rid of the studio photography piece and see if we get something that's a little more icy looking. Let's see what happens here. By the way, the other day I did this and I ran it, 50 times. You can get a lot of really interesting variations, and it's very, very quick. It's about the quickest and easiest thing I can think of. I've always been trying to make cooler and cooler charts in Excel and in PowerPoint and even in Tableau and stuff, and it takes a lot of effort, but this is very, very fast. Okay, so you can see, I tried to give you like a cold background. This one's not bad. It's a little hard to see these, so you might want to try some variations on that. And this one's just trying to like maybe fill it up with ice. There's a couple of interesting things here. I still think this one's probably the best, one of these versions. Let's try the opposite. Let's try fire, and let's say in the style of, exposure. Just messing around here to see what we can get it to do. And obviously when you go into this, you probably have some specific thing. I think of ice because there was a presentation I did at one point that was about temperature, and same with fire. That's why fire's coming to mind too, but there's a lot of different varieties you can do. So this one I think is pretty cool. You got some interesting varieties. You can see the bars are all being pretty well preserved in terms of the scale of them and the placement. So that's what's helpful. You could also, by the way, make an interesting animated GIF out of these if that's in your skill set. But let's try something a little different. So let's just get rid of the term bar chart, even though it does seem to respond better when you're kind of consistent in calling the thing what it is. But you can also let's just experiment really quick. Let's just say in the style of exposure photography and see what happens. I think in my experience, we'll probably still get the bars, but it will just be less focused on them. You might get them kind of lost in the background, but we'll see. It's pretty probabilistic, so can't always tell what you're going to get. So this is pretty cool. Yeah, and you do kind of lose the bars a little bit. This one's bordering on something interesting. That's interesting. I don't know if any of these are usable in a presentation. Let's go back over here and let's do something like bar. Let's do this. Let's do trees. And let's do in the style of, children's book illustration. See what we can get from that. I did try the other day something along the lines of like Alice in Wonderland illustration, and it came up with some pretty neat looking examples. This one's kind of fun. This might suit what you're trying to do depending on what that is. This one right here, I mean, if you're presenting something about like children's books, right? This is pretty good. That one's pretty fun too. I think these are pretty fun. Let's just try. Let's try something else. Let's try something like waves in the style of Hokusai. Oops. And Hokusai is that Japanese artist, I think from the 1800s, who created that painting that's very iconic of the wave with the boat sitting in it. I don't know the style of art, but it's a painting I like a lot. So let's see if we can get it to replicate that at all. I'm not sure it will. Probably end up just making a lot of blue is my guess. So that one's not very useful. That one's pretty fun, but we're kind of losing the bars there. This one's not bad either. I don't know. I bet if you mess with this, you could probably get something pretty good out of it. Let's try something else like bar chart. The bars are made of quilted fabric in the style of, say, folk art. Maybe you're doing a presentation on folk art or on quilted fabric or whatever, right? This might kind of fit with that. Let's see what we get. First one's pretty meh. But it does have the fabric in there. I feel like if you mess with this a little bit, you could get something pretty cool out of this. I don't think we need this descending line in the background, but it's a little busy. I'm kind of liking this one. I wonder if we can let's do something here. I think you can retexture this one. Let's just try to redo it. And actually might add some stylization in here now. Maybe some of these other things as well. By the way, you can do more than one run at the same time. So you see I've got 8 going. It gives you 4 back for each run, just like Midjourney does for pretty much anything that you submit, but you can get multiple things going at once. There's a limit, just like with generating anything out of Midjourney though. All right, let's see what we got here. That's kind of fun. We got some fabric swatches there. Obviously the colors, if you want them to be specific colors, it's not going to work super well to do this approach. I like this one a lot. But you could go back into edit and try changing that specific area. I've had mixed success with that. So, you know, I'm not going to pretend I know how to make that work correctly. Some of these are pretty interesting, but the bars are getting lost. Let's just try one more thing. I mentioned the other day I tried Alice in Wonderland. Let's just try that. Bar chart in the style of Alice in Wonderland illustrations. There are, maybe let's try this. Let's try it. Let's see if we can get the Cheshire Cat. The Cheshire Cat, is this how you spell it? Cheshire Cat is on one of the bars. There are creatures in the background and foreground. Why not? Let's see what happens. I think the real risk with something like this, it's fun, and you could get into a bit of a rabbit hole. Speaking of Alice in Wonderland, and just create way too many options. This first one's pretty cool, I think. I mean, it depends on what you're presenting, obviously, but that's pretty fun. That one's not as good. That one's okay. That one's pretty fun. Depends on what you're trying to do. Maybe you're doing something on cats. I really like this one, actually. In fact, I'm going to use this one to do the next step here, which is to go over into PowerPoint. And you can see I've already been messing with quite a few versions of this here. In fact, I'll run through these really quick if you want to see them. They're pretty fun. You can see I did ice and fire. I think this was a Van Gogh stylization. Some interesting stuff here. Some wood, some sand that's blowing away. You can do some really neat stuff. I think I applied a tilt shift or shift tilt effect to this one, which makes things look miniaturized. And this is like cheese on a cheese board, you know. Here's I think this might have been a hokusai thing I did here. This one I applied my, I do charcoal drawings on the side, and a lot of times there's things like skull studies and stuff like that. And so I applied my own image as an input, and it made this chart, which is pretty interesting. See, same thing with this one. I applied one of my own digital images to it, and it made this version. It's kind of cool. Some of these are pretty fun. I did a lot. I'll skip through the rest of these really quickly. Oh yeah, you can do really quick. You can do more like actual realistic looking stuff too. Here's some fabric stuff I did. Bars are a little lost, but a little better than the ones we got out of it today. Anyway, let's see here. Let's make a new slide and just see what we can get out of it. Okay, so we're going to replace this with the picture I just copied from Midjourney. Oops, I forgot to do this. Let me go back over here, copy this. There we go. And then the nice thing, obviously, about PowerPoint these days is you have these designer options where it already kind of helps you figure out how to do stuff. You can take what you've created and see if you can come up with something out of the box with designer here that fits a little better. I think something flowy like this is kind of fun. It depends on what you're trying to do, because there's not a lot of room for text below here, and you also lose some of the bars. So maybe we try something a little different here. Let's just go with something pretty basic. Okay, let's just do this one. So the next step really is to get the title and those kinds of things back onto here. So let's grab our values. We have to put them in manually. So we had 500. Let's do that. We'll worry about making these look better in a moment. Right now we just want to make sure they're in the right spot. Let's see here. Maybe I'll put inside the bar since we have the cat there. This one's 247. Oops. Six. We'll do one more here. So then you obviously want to mess around with this to try to get these to stand out. And you can see, might need to put something in the background of them to have them pop in some cases here. Not going to make this about making the chart of the slide look perfect, but just know you can mess with this and kind of get some fun effects. Oops, I think we're getting there here. Obviously you'd want to put a title in here. So I think that's about, I don't need to dig deeper into it here. I think you get the idea. It's really quick, really simple. I spent a lot more time on it on purpose to show you that you could get various effects out of it. But ultimately, I think you could pop into here and do this in a matter of minutes. So if you're talking about going from something like, like this, to what we've got here, I think it's clear. It's worth the couple of minutes. And if it was a long process, maybe not. But this is very, very quick. So I plan on doing quite a few more of these, maybe one or two a week even. I do a lot of this stuff, meaning I'm constantly experimenting with tools to figure out how to make them more user-friendly for business. and that includes a lot of the AI generative art type tools or imagery type tools, which I don't see a lot of people sharing. So I hope you get good value out of this. And if you did, please follow along. Follow me on LinkedIn. Follow me on YouTube, and share with your friends and your coworkers too. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.